Assalamu alaikum. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today on 13 Revolution Radio, back from a little bit of a layoff, to have a very special show with you today. Brothers and sisters, you know that we always strive to bring high-powered guests and people that bring information. And again, as I always say, I want to talk to smart people, brothers and sisters who are intelligent, brothers and sisters who are of nuance, brothers and sisters that know what they're doing, have studied their trade and their craft, and have elevated to an elite status so that they could not only inspire us to do better at what we do, but give us some insight on how we can get to where they are and how we can take their advice and transform it into something. And so therefore, we have a very esteemed guest today, and it's a good brother named Reggie Middleton. And this is a brother who we have been talking about in our Black African Infrastructure Organization group for quite a while, a man that has been successful in the financial field. And I'm just going to read his bio real quick, and then I'm going to bring my brother Thomas in. It says here, let's see, after graduation from university, Middleton worked for Prudential Insurance and trained in the sale of financial products. Since then, he has worked in fields of financial securities and risk management. He was also a significant investor in residential real estate. Middleton is known for making predictions about the crash of markets and large financial institutions long before they occur. Aaron Elstein of Cranes New York Business said Mr. Middleton has been startlingly accurate in the past. He forecast the collapse of the housing market in 2007 and in early 2008 warned of the demise of Bear Stearns weeks before it happened. Earlier this year, he said that Ireland's finances were in terrible shape long before Standard & Poor's got around to downgrading that nation's credit rating. In 2008, he founded the BoomBustBlog and claims to have over 3,000 paying subscribers. And so this is just a snapshot at our brother's great work. And it says that he regularly appears on CNBC, Bloomberg, and the Kaiser Report to discuss his research and opinions, and has also been interviewed on CNN and BBC World News. Until 2011, he wrote about financial evaluation and global financial crisis at the Huffington Post, according to Forbes. Middleton combines self-promotion with meticulous financial analysis that is often delivered with a whiff of bathroom humor. And so there you have it, brothers and sisters. We of the Black African Infrastructure Organization, we are trying to establish a sovereign state and satellite communities, but we understand that this costs money. We understand this takes resources, and you can't really wish for this and hope somebody gives it to you. You have to acquire it in some way. And so we're bringing a brother on our show that can help us with this. First off, I want to bring in my good brother Thomas. Brother Thomas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How you doing, Mr. Dawud?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. How you doing?
Good, good. Do you see Mr. Middleton on the line?
Yes, sir. He is. He's here. He's here. I'm bringing him in right now.
Okay, wonderful.
Mr. Middleton,
Hello.
Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am.
Oh, fantastic. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine. I actually had a flat tire, so I'm at a tire shop on the phone. Pardon any background noise, but at least it demonstrates my commitment to be on your show, right?
Yes, sir. We truly thank you for
that. and definitely, and just I want to say personally, you know, we are deeply honored, and we really appreciate that you gave us the time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. And, you know, I don't want to, take up too much of your precious time, but, there's just a few questions that, we had of you, so that way, because we also, like you said, we want to inspire people to do better. And, there might be some young men and young women who are in the pursuit of study and maybe want to go along the path that you've gone down. So was there any particular area of study that you took up outside of your bachelor's degree? Did you go get a master's in science or MBA? Or was it just something that you picked up on just by your own research and your own zeal for financial matters?
Well, to be absolutely honest, the vast majority of my, quasi-academic education came from reading. In the 90s, I would go to what was then the new Barnes & Noble superstores, and I would sit down, grab a bunch of books, and read. And I read profusely. Wow. And, it's a new business model for bookstores at the time. Usually they'd shoo you away if you tried to read the books and touch them. Barnes & Noble try something different, and I read tomes and tomes of valuation and financial, technical trading, fundamental analysis, quantitative analysis, quant books, etc. And it gave me a pretty good foundation. My official academic education was of a BBA, a Bachelor's in Business Administration at Howard University. But from that point, I never did go into management, and I went through finance, risk management, sales, and right now I'm doing a combination of all three with a heavy dose, a heavy dollop of IT.
Sure. Wow. So you were pretty much completely almost self-taught, which is which is ironic because there's a lot of industry analysts that they go to school and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to some of the larger MBA programs like the Wharton School of Business, or some of them go to London School of Economics. And so this gift that you have for analysis, as you said in your video, what part of your, I guess, your upbringing give you this, help you hone this gift so that way you come up with a scientific method of your own? I mean, and how do you go about that scientific method of looking at companies from a forensic standpoint, and as you say, be offensively honest?
Well, I was blessed with a wonderful pair of parents. My mother and my father. My father just passed away, but he's probably the greatest man I ever knew, and he married a very good mother. And together they taught me something that I rest on often. They taught me to have a significant amount of self-confidence and to believe in yourself and to have drive. Now, normally that would have nothing to do with financial analysis, but actually it does, because I've learned, and I can't even say learn, I innately refuse to follow a crowd simply to be a crowd follower. So
right.
If I sit here and look at a wall and there's 50 other people looking at a wall, and it's trendy to say that wall is white, and everybody says the wall is white, if I see a black wall, then I'll call out a black wall. It's irrelevant what everybody else says. It's irrelevant what their opinion is, and it's irrelevant how many people think they're right and think I'm wrong. And using that perspective, I've seen a lot of black walls over the last 7 to 8 years, 10 years, 12 years. And look at the housing bubble. Everybody said it was white. It wasn't. Look at the European sovereign debt crisis. Everybody said it was white. It wasn't. If you look at Apple, everybody said it was white. It wasn't. Look at Google. And if you go down the line, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers. And basically, when you look at things from a ground-up perspective, if you look at things as a student versus a know-it-all or professional, oftentimes you probably see something different from the majority of the crowd. And the reason is the majority is always wrong by definition. If the majority was right, then the majority would be wealthy and there'd be very few poor.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, I guess brings me to the next question. I mean, because I know you opined on matters such as currency and things such as Bitcoin, which is one of the latest phenomenons in the world of finance. If you had your druthers, what would a currency look like, or a monetary system look like in, Reggie Middleton's utopia? How would you construct it? What would you think that would look like?
Yeah. See, now, that's a hard question, probably because utopia doesn't exist by definition. If everybody was doing well, there'd be nobody to do bad.
Exactly.
And if nobody was doing bad, then how would you know anybody's doing well? So it's all relative. You need something to compare it to. But let's throw, common sense and the laws of physics and reality out the window, and let's say there was a utopia. I would probably think that these new digital currencies or some iteration thereof would be the way to go, because they eliminate most of the problems, faux pas, and faults of the traditional currencies and the currencies that we've been using over the last 2,000 or 3,000 years, primarily because they're not physically based, or don't have to be physically based, shall I say, and they eliminate a lot of the trust issues that stimulate conflict with conventional currencies. Since they can be programmed, and since that programming can rely on the consent of all parties involved, more than 2 or 3 parties, you can pretty much eliminate the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of conflict and conflict resolution, at least once it comes to payments and transactions. That's at least 2 to 10% of all transactions done. When you go and do a deal, you hire a lawyer simply because you can't trust the other side. You take escrow and a physical escrow because you can't trust the other side. You need a deposit because you can't trust the other side. So if there's a way to make a transaction trustless or zero trust, where a trust is not necessary in a transaction, then you eliminate those costs and those frictions, and you eliminate all the costs that stem from them, such as legal fees, physical contracts, contract resolution, fights, battles, lawsuits, etc. War.
Absolutely, yes. Exactly. And it's odd that you said something like that because there's a gentleman that you probably are familiar with, William Still. He doesn't propose a digital currency, but what he basically said, you scrap the Federal Reserve and then basically you have like a certain amount of currency. But basically the way how the digital currencies work, there's a certain amount of currency that's made available, and therefore, keep it from manipulation. So basically, his idea, I believe, was to make it where the government was actually creating a currency and not a bank, so that way it can be debt-free currency. But okay, and I guess one of the other items, just had some questions about in regards to if you were creating a sovereign wealth fund for, say, a nation that contracts your service. I'm pretty sure that there's nations, governments that look at some of your research and they enjoy the quality of your research. But if you had an opportunity to manage a sovereign wealth fund, how would you construct that? Like, what would be the basis of that portfolio if you're looking at a sovereign wealth fund?
Well, I'd start with I would do this just like the academic would do the personal finance or personal investment portfolio. I look at the sovereign. I see where their incomes and expenses are, inflows and outflows of cash. I see where their sources of wealth are, and then I look forward into the future to try to project what they would be, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, and 100 years in the future. Of course, 50 and 100 would be pretty difficult. 20 probably would as well. 5 is hard enough. Even next year is hard enough. But the reason you do this is because you don't just say, I have a sovereign, I have a lot of money, I'm going to invest it. You invest for a goal. Right. Companies such as those in the Middle East and the UAE and certain portions of Central Africa are cash rich because of the oil money. Where they're cash rich and have a lot of float, but you expect that cash to diminish significantly over the next, say, 30 years as either the oil reserves burn out or you have alternative energies such as electricity that take over, electric cars, etc., different powers, different ways to power the vehicles that burn most of the fossil fuels. Then you want to basically, for those countries, I move them into infrastructure, okay, and into influential investments, right? And then I'll think of capital gains and income second, because they're rich in cash. It's not cash that they need. They need structural influence and geopolitical influence, okay? But you have countries that, let's say a country like China or Venezuela, not Venezuela, let's pick someone like China or Singapore, Vietnam, okay, that has a lot of cash stemming from, low-cost manufacturing and rigid production and exports. Well, they have a different structural need for that money. Okay, I think theirs would be a little more short-term because it's very difficult for them to keep that cash flow going because the more successful they get, basically the more successful they'll be treated. And their labor force would demand more money. Eventually, inflation will raise its ugly head, and they no longer have that price advantage. So I would be a bit more short-term orientated and aggressive on the Chinese front versus longer term and more geopolitically connected, directed on the Middle East front. Now, not long term, but longer term. So I'm talking short to medium term on the the oil producers, and then shorter to less medium term on the low cost manufacturers. And just that's just off the top of my head. I didn't give it a lot of analytical thought, but I have thought about it in the past.
Okay. I had a feeling you might have done that. And then let's go back to, because you didn't get a chance to touch on it, but the scientific method, because you called yourself a detective of sorts, and you said that you're not an optimist or pessimist, but you're a realist. So if someone were to if they could, basically become like a parasitic leech to your brainstem, like, what is the scientific method that Reggie Middleton goes down? Like in the 5 steps.
Well, it all depends what the problem is. I have different solutions contingent upon the problem. One scientific method is you don't take a hammer to put a screwdriver in. Okay, and to be truthful, that's not very scientific, but a lot of people have a favorite method of doing things, and that's what they do. I have my favorite hammer, and when it's time to flush that toilet, I hit it with the hammer. Time to put that nail in, I hit it with the hammer, and time to cut that light off, what happens to the light bulb? The hammer hits it. So the first thing you do is you make sure you get the correct tools for the situation. If you don't know what the correct tools are, that's your first lesson. You have to analyze and get to know what the situation is before you try and solve it. I try and learn an industry way before I attempt to analyze it, like the cryptocurrencies and digital currencies. A lot of my clients were asking about that for well over a year now. I was resource constrained, had some personal issues, so I couldn't delve into it. But when I did decide to delve into it, I took a look at it from a totally unbiased perspective. No preconceived notions, no prejudices, anything else. I just sat there and attempted to learn as much as I could about it. And I almost instantaneously saw what appears no one else saw, and that was the capabilities of cryptocurrencies. And then I actually called the people who were involved very early on and contacted them and was asking, so why isn't anybody doing X, Y, Z with them? And then, people, the people on the other side were saying, well, everything's basically R&D, which I understand, but everything with all new things are basically R&D. That doesn't prevent people from moving forward. And then, upon further introspection and inspection, I noticed that because of wild price range volatility and basically a general prejudice, people looked at one side of the coin and one side of the coin only. So I said, there's a business opportunity here to examine the other side of the coin.
Absolutely. And with the cryptocurrencies, with the volatility that's inherent to them, I saw that they're like one place where they have options available on like Bitcoin, but it's not widespread. And I know you talked about in some of your other work, like when like housing markets where there's volatility, some type of options. I mean, do you see that as being a possibility where it'll become more widespread for like the cryptocurrencies?
Potentially in the future, if they become more widespread. Options, by definition, are very sensitive to volatility. And so in order to write an option on something, you basically have to pay. An option is payment for volatility over a certain amount of time. You can mathematically calculate the statistical chance of an option being in the money, out of the money. And the higher the volatility, the less likely that chance would be. Because options are priced with volatility, you can buy an option, and you could be 100% right on whether the option will be in the money at expiry, and you still lose money, simply because you paid so much for the option because the volatility was so high. With that being said, as you said, if you take a look at the volatility of currencies, if you buy an option, number one, you pay through the nose on it. And how many people are going to be willing to take the other side of the option with the capital gains of something like Bitcoin over the last 2 or 3 years? And even if you were right, they charge you so much, you get just as much money if you were wrong, which is probably nothing. So with a smoother market, options I think would come into play. But whoever came up with the options idea, and possibly, I don't know the whole story, but it sounds like they might have been playing their favorite instrument, basically taking their hammer and trying to take the light bulb out with it.
Yeah, because when I looked at the options on Bitcoin, they were like, the pricing was just out of this world at the money. They were like, the time premium that you're paying was just astronomical. So with that being said, I think there are people in the listening audience who may have had just one question for you. Would it be permissible to let them ask that question?
Okay, they can ask the question, whether I can answer or not, it's a different story, but it's a free world.
Okay. Absolutely. All right, Mr. Dawud, is there anyone who's raising their hand to ask the question at this time?
At this time, we got Brother Earl. Did you want to ask a question, Brother Earl?
Yeah. Well, I just have one question. How you guys doing all the time?
Pretty good, brother.
Pretty good.
Okay. The one thing that I had a question about is what do you think is going to be the future business model, or is there a future business model around Google Glass, because it seems like a lot of people are like you said, that the majority of the people are thinking that it's going to be a fad, and you're saying that it has the potential to be bigger than the iPhone. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of business model could you build around Google Glass? Is it going to be just a better way to share media, or is it going to be something that's totally different than what we're seeing right now?
In terms of Google Glass, there's a variety of business models around it. Google Glass is revolutionary. Not evolutionary, but revolutionary. And what makes it revolutionary is it allows you to compute without using your hands. A lot of people who think of Google Glass as a fad are thinking, last generation computing. They're thinking about how it looks, which is highly irrelevant. Number one, I actually have Glass in my hand right now. A lot of people think it looks cool. Some people think it doesn't. A lot of girls are interested in it, but it's irrelevant how it looks because, all you have to do is just change the format, which Google is probably going to do upon launch anyway. A lot of people feel that it's difficult to use because they're trying to use their hands on it, and it's a hands-free device. I could give you 3 very quick business models. Healthcare, surgeons. When surgeons get in trouble and their hands are inside you and they need help, they simply tilt their head back, ask for a specific doctor, and that doctor is now video conferenced in and can see what that surgeon is doing and give them hands-on guidance and literally see the surgery and say, don't touch this, go to the left, XYZ. Law enforcement, surveillance, that should be self-explanatory, but just in case it's not, they see you and they can record you and send you to another database. They can take your face and they can cross-reference it with the other face in the database. They see a potential terrorist suspect, whether that person is deserving of that title or not, and it flashes up in glass, throws the red light, etc. Aviation. Imagine flying a small Cessna and having the same level of meters and guides and gauges that your 787, your Dreamliner has. Those are 3 just off the top of my head. You go into engineering.
In my field, which is electronic security, if I had that thing on and I was wiring up a panel and my boss had it on the other end, he'd be like, listen, you don't wire it this way, you wire it that way, and that would save a lot of problems. I never saw anything before.
As a matter of fact, if you don't agree with your boss and there's a situation, you simply pull up the reference manual from anywhere on the internet, and now you could all both take a look at it and say, oh, he was right, he was wrong.
Wow.
You could do this before. Wow. You could do this before you blow the panel up versus after.
That's right.
Wow, this is awesome. So you've been an early adopter of Google Glass, which I'm so jealous. But anyway, I mean, what's life like with the Google Glass? I know there was a real estate app that you were using that you were able to look at a house and get its housing history, its sales, the owners, any deeds, any liens against the property. Like, that is awesome. So now it almost makes the real estate agent irrelevant, but they still play a part. But you basically get all the data that you need based on, I guess, one of the functionalities that could be built into the Glass software. So I mean, what has it been like? Have you seen a productivity improvement by using it?
Well, you get productivity, you get a larger depth of knowledge and field of knowledge. But I also want to let you know, to reiterate that that's a conceptual video. That application doesn't exist yet. It's a concept. Okay. There are applications that do exist. What I'm going to do is the Bitcoin application that I'm developing now, which actually should go live tonight in a very close beta, and then open it up a little more tomorrow and gradually throughout the week until I go to an open beta, depending how the closed beta goes. And that is basically digital currency swaps, where you take Bitcoin, you can swap it into any of 24 fiat currencies or vice versa. And that will actually be able to be done through Glass. And also through the app, you can send Bitcoins to another Bitcoin wallet, which means you can pay people through Glass. And because Bitcoin is so efficient, you can make something called micropayments. So normally you can't use electronic transactions for, you'll go to the store and someone say a minimum purchase price of $20 or $10 to use your credit card or debit card.
Yes.
In many states, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, it might even be New York, those minimums are illegal, but the reason they do that is because the transaction charges are so high. So with this device, right, as a Grass app, you could make microtransactions down to 20 cents and 30 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents. And this opens up a new business model. So you're sitting there, suppose you're online to a bathroom. You got to pee real bad. Everybody's online. You could say, here, make this transaction. If you give me 80 cents, have my daughter step in front of you. They say, okay. You exchange wallet IDs. It's done. You're on a highway, right? You're late for work. There's a lot of traffic. You can negotiate a deal with the 6 cars in front of you. I give you all $3 each for let me pass by. 4 out of 3 agree. You give the 3 out of 4 agree. You give the $3, and then the last one negotiates $6. So for that, do the math, 9. For that $15, you get to work on time, and you don't lose that billable hour if you bill $200 an hour. So these are new business models that you can do, and it combines contextual or wearable computing with almost a friction-free payment network. The future is here, brothers.
Wow. Good God. Man, I'm excited. I feel like, like starts are going where no man's gone before. This has been truly enlightening. Were there any other questions out there in the audience that want to be fielded?
That seems to be it, brother.
Okay, wonderful. Well, once again, we just want to really say we appreciate you giving this precious time to us. You could be doing so many other things, but we definitely I did have one last question. I almost got to be remiss if I didn't ask this question. In regards to the incestuous relationship that the investment banks, as they either A, are underwriting stocks or new issues of stocks, but B, they're also in many cases, providing data in terms of price target increases and various other forms of data so that other banks can, buy up the shares of companies, basically like your institutional investors, your pension funds, your mutual funds, hedge fund investors, insurance companies. Being that you operate outside that realm, do you feel like you're uniquely positioned to give more accurate analysis of companies, hence why you were able to win the CNBC Stock Challenge? I had to plug you on that one. He won the CNBC Stock Challenge, beat the brakes off everybody by like a wide margin, so I just want to put that out there.
Okay. Well, what I do is I do forensic and investigative analysis. I seek the truth, or I seek an answer to a question or a solution to a problem. What the vast majority of analysts on the sell side do is they're the sales arm for their underwriting and trading department. So we have 2 different jobs. Now, I'm not an analyst. I'm an entrepreneur and an investor, but I've been given the term analyst by the media, which fits because all investors should be analysts. If you're an investor and not an analyst, and you're a trader. And to be truthful, all traders should be analysts. If you're a trader without being an analyst, then you're gambling. And to be honest, in my opinion, all gamblers should be analysts because you don't want to take unbridled risk. You're taking calculated risk, looking for a positive result more than 51% of the time. So on that note, the analysts on the sell side of Wall Street are neither of those. Analysts on the sell side of Wall Street are basically, marketing and salesmen. Marketing, should I say. The brokers are the salesmen, the analysts are the marketing department. And their job is to move inventory, all right, or to facilitate the sales on the investment banking side. So for traders, it's moving inventory. And for the investment banking and underwriting side, it's sales. And, nobody on Wall Street would say this because, you're banned from Wall Street and how dare you say such and such. But that's called where I'm from? It's called the truth.
Exactly. And for those who may want to subscribe to your services, because you have varying different levels of services, everything from services for the small mom-and-pop retail investor trader to institutional investors, are institutions or, say, small investment clubs able to get research on different companies specifically, or do you just have a certain bevy of companies that you look at and you provide research on those companies in your model of your livelihood, basically?
Yeah, I do. I have, I do research for my own purposes, and then I resell that research. I wouldn't say resell because it wasn't so in the first place. I sell that research So it wouldn't be efficient for a small club or mom and pop to have me research a specific company unless that specific company is something I've already done recently. But I will do a specific company if, someone is willing to underwrite the cost, because I'm always looking to learn. And, there's always opportunity for you to learn. But, my costs have to be covered because I have analysts to pay and I have work to do. And even I need to eat, as skinny as I am,
Exactly. and there's a funny anecdote. The first time I saw you on CNBC, and I've already probably know where I'm going. I didn't know who you were, right? So all I did is I looked at the screen and I said, Keith Sweat is actually he's a trader. I said no, because this is the funny thing. For people who don't know, Keith Sweat used to work at the NYMEX.
Yeah.
He actually used to work at the NYMEX. So when I saw the TV, I was like, Keith Sweat's trading, because it's not common for people who are in entertainment or sports. They act like, Lenny Dykstra ended up becoming like a investor at one point, and he had a decent track record at one point. So when I saw the TV, I was like, Keith Sweat, he's trading there? And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you see, you date yourself because only certain people even know who Keith Sweat is. So you date yourself now.
But you guys are almost about the same age. You guys are almost, because you guys.
You're right about the same age. As a matter of fact, I went to a party once. I saw him uptown, and I never really, went to that. I look like Keith Sweat pick, but I saw him at a party uptown, and we looked at each other, and we were like, I was like, okay, I get it now. I see.
And then you're both New Yorkers, so it's like how I guess everybody in the world has a twin. So once again, this is really a delight, and we look forward to seeing more from you. Like I said, he was the winner of the CNBC Stock Challenge, and it was funny because there were some of these guys who they've been, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, Sonny, and you basically showed them, shut up, Grandpa, take a back seat. We are the future now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, brother, for coming on our show, man, with such short notice and being so affable. And one of the things I was telling Brother Thomas is that, most times when you deal with people who are small time, they give you such a problem and they don't get back to you for 2 and 3 weeks. But how you can tell somebody is really accomplished and they're really real about their business is they get right back to you. Because if they're real about their business and they're accomplished, they want to help somebody else. So salute to you, big brother. I thank you. I hope that you can come on again. And much love to you and much success to your career.
Okay. Well, you're quite welcome. It's my pleasure. Definitely my pleasure. You guys seem like a class act.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.